So welcome. I think let us start. I don't know who else will be joining. So we are on week 26. Hi Abhishek. Good to have you with us today. You are muted if you are sharing something.
Thanks, Monica. Yes, it's the first day.
So you finally got some time. Last time you were busy.
Yes.
Okay. So shall we start?
Sure.
So we have two prayers for today. March 29, 1914 and March 30, 1914. So we'll take them one by one. And yeah, let's start with this one first. So if anyone, Abhishek or Taru, would anyone like to read out this prayer for us before we reflect? Yes, Abhishek.
Oh, though whom we must know, understand, realize absolute consciousness, eternal law, though who guidest and illuminest us, who movest and inspirest us, grant that these weak soul may be strengthened, and those who fear be reassured. To thee I entrust them, even as I entrust to thee our entire destiny.
Yeah, thank you. So keep sharing if any insights, any reflections come on the way. So I'll start sharing a few reflections on it. We'll go through the lines again. So this is when Mother has come to Pondicherry. I think this is the first time that Mother is arriving at Pondicherry. And then she comes again, finally, I think in 1920, she comes back.
Okay.
So, O thou whom we must know, understand, realize, absolute consciousness, eternal law, thou who guidest and illuminest us, who moves and inspirest us. So first of all, this kind of an implore, how we pray and aspire, that, and Mother is almost giving us a hint towards the path that all of us human beings have to take, whom we must know. So this is, our purpose in human life. We think that our purpose is to establish, this material property, that wealth, have settled families, settled jobs. That may be a side effect on the way, but that's not the purpose of our being here. So whom we must know, I think this is very important, because we have an education spanning over, I don't know, maybe 14, minimum 14 to maybe more 20 years. And we don't know why we are born. I remember having this almost a crisis when I was finishing the PhD, that what am I doing? Or what has this education of 14 years, 15 and more years has given me? Because I still felt so lost and abandoned. Because somehow in our education, which is currently mostly largely there, we don't focus or even reflect or pay heed to why human birth at all. That was a part of our Indian Gurukul system and that tradition that we have of education. But in time, it got kind of really dissolved and hit at its root. So we don't know why we are here. And many a times we have this midlife crisis, which happens to us nowadays around 30, 40 years old, that we are wondering, what after this now? I have money, I have family, I have wealth, uh, whatever I wanted, maybe I got, but still there is something which is missing. And this is something which Mother points at, what is missing. Because our purpose will remain unfulfilled and mission would remain dissatisfying if we don't realize our true divine consciousness. And it's not for a few of us, each one of us has to realize who we truly are. So, O thou whom we must know, there is a must here. So I think we must reflect over this must. Understand, realize. So also starting from mental, intellectual philosophizations. First, we all begin our journey mentally, kind of abstract philosophical concepts that attract our attention. We read those books, and then slowly, like small drops of water, if they for a long time keep falling on a rock, even the rock dissolves. So first, it begins with intellectual, theoretical, mental understanding, and slowly it becomes a part of my being. And then slowly we have the journey towards realization. Whom we must know, understand, realize absolute consciousness, eternal law. So we are all wondering many a times that, it's good if we wonder like that whatever I see is so limited. Many a times in our arrogance we think that I know the best. So in comparison to that, this state where we realize that I have a limited window is a very good baby step ahead on the path, knowing that with our limited sense mind we can only see a little, judge a little, perceive a little, and that little is nothing in front of the true picture. So absolute consciousness, our consciousness is, as we were reading in Savitri the other day, it's like an island in the vast sea of unknown. It's like only that part is lit and rest all remains submerged. So that which is absolute light and consciousness, when we unify with that consciousness, then we have mental clarity, and all clarity at other levels. Absolute consciousness, eternal law. We often wonder about divine law. What is the law of the divine? How do I know it? And Mother says that the best way, Mother Sri Aurobindo, that the best way to know it, to be it. It's a long journey, arduous journey, but that's the best way. Knowledge by identity. So we cannot philosophize or intellectualize much about divine consciousness, but we can realize it. And we don't have to keep feeling again, this ego consciousness that, oh, I am so miniature, unworthy. How can I do it? Maybe some rishis or sadhus, maybe they can realize divine consciousness, but no, I can't. And there we limit ourselves and we can say that, yes, I can't, but the divine can realize for me. So the Divine Mother is all powerful, and if we have the aspiration to realize, then the realization can happen. So, the eternal law, the divine law, thou who guidest and illuminest us. Now, I think I also relate this with this light of consciousness that we have, with which I become aware of my thoughts, with which I become aware, okay, this is what I am feeling today. Oh, this is what I am thinking today. So there is an awareness, there is this presence of consciousness, the light of consciousness in us, which is conscious of all that is happening. So that consciousness which guidest and illuminest us. Without that consciousness, I can't even think, because if I'm thinking, I know what I'm thinking. So there is a knowing behind that thinking, and that knowing is all pervading. It's there, your knowing, my knowing, it's not different knowing, it's just one divine consciousness. So that illuminest us, who movest and inspirest us. So even whatever moves us in the other person, I'm again sharing just some reflections. We'll invite more reflections here. So many a times we are moved, a desire moves us, or an inspirational work by somebody moves us. And all that is a work of grace. Nothing can happen if not for divine grace. So everything, as they say, even a leaf when it moves, it's moving because of the divine. But in the day-to-day humdrum of life, we forget to see that nothing can move if not for the divine will, divine grace. So thou who movest and inspires us, that something in us moves, and we get inspired, and we are in aspiration, we go forward, move forward. Grant that these weak souls may be strengthened. And I'm sure there is an anecdote here where mother must have witnessed something in front of her, and mother is sharing that, grant that these weak souls may be strengthened. So I think this is very good for us to see that when I, as this person, I look at somebody and I see that yes, there is some weakness, there is some fear. The person is anxious today, the person is not in really a cheerful, happy state of being. What do we do? No, we many a times we can just say, at least I am not that. At least I am not in such a pathetic state as that person. No, I am a bit stronger. Many a times we can say that. All the focus is on me, me, me. But what mother shares here is absolutely uplifting us when we are confronted with such situations, that if I see a weakness in front of me, if a person in front of me is weak, or I am feeling my own weakness, what is the aspiration that comes up? Grant that these weak souls may be strengthened. I think if for a moment we try to do it, just remember today or yesterday, any person or in yourself you encountered some weakness, and instead of going down in a deep trench and in a hole in darkness looking at that weakness, we look at that weakness in other person or myself, and I say that you are all powerful, so grant that these weak souls may be strengthened. So this is how we can turn every raw material, every challenge on the way towards the highest possibility, whether we see it in other or ourselves. And those who fear, be reassured. Again, when I see fear in me, I go deep down in my fear. I become very limited, constricted with fear. When I see fear in others, again, we are not able to understand what that person is going through. So mother is, I believe this is also very much related to the Tonglen practice that we often share from Buddhism, where whenever we see any weakness, any challenge, any suffocation, any limitation or difficulty, we uplift it to the highest most possible. That now I see the suffering of the other person, and may that person have the joy and simplicity of the present moment. May all the burden be taken away. So whether I see it in my neighbors, relatives, many a times in our relatives, we are facing some situations that we feel helpless, that I don't know what to do, how to help the other person. So when we see this situation that I don't know what to do, whether seeing a thing in myself or other, this is how we can raise it up and uplift and offer to the divine. So grant that these weak souls may be strengthened, and those who fear be reassured. Not saying that at least I am not fearing, let the other person fear. So also purifying the ill will in us, because there is a lot of hidden ill will in us which we don't recognize. That, yeah, the other person can suffer, it's okay, but at least the suffering is not in my home. So instead of that, the moment we see suffering, we uplift it. To thee I entrust them, even as I entrust to thee our entire destiny. So again, as they say, that the whole of this life is yoga. You are putting ahutis again and again in this sacrificial fire. So knowing that the divine is all powerful, and I cannot do it right now, but the divine can. So, yes, to thee I entrust them, even as I entrust to thee our entire destiny. Yeah. So, any thoughts, any reflections? Anyone, please unmute and share. Yes, Tavi.
Yeah, this word weak, I find it very interesting that how, it circulates. How there could be times when you would feel so strong and invincible and, like, you got it and you're flying. And then there are times in which you're like, oh my God, what's happening? What am I doing? So it's like, it's just like, when you were sharing that how when we look at the other, we could be feeling that, it's not me. But even this thing that it's not me right now, or this time also really humbles me in kind of connecting, right? Because we all, I don't know, right? From strength to weakness, from strength to weakness, it feels like a circulatory pattern and not just us and them. It's very interesting that and how one can pray for oneself and others, whenever, because at times it feels strange that why, it's so simple, why can't the other get it? But then looking at myself, that do I get it? It's just, I don't know, bringing it back to me and just knowing that I too am weak so many times and it's all right? Like just offering that. So the weak soul, I don't know, I find it very interesting how the dynamics keep shifting, and I think it's so important. Otherwise, again, those bifurcations and divisions would come that I am the one who's not weak, right? So till I actually don't need to feel that anymore, maybe it's good that I am made to go through the darknesses, right? Again and again and again to because they fuel, right? They fuel too towards the light. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I think very grounding, because when we go through a deep weakness of our own self and feel that helplessness, which we once may have seen in somebody else, and when we now are facing that helplessness ourselves, I think it's very grounding that uh, now I understand, now I see the pain, what we can go through. And also knowing parallelly that I may not know the path, but the divine knows, the all powerful, the divine mother, she knows. So again, as in the last line, what mother is doing, this conscious offering of our life to the divine. I think that has to be done, I would say, day after day, moment after moment. And this one anecdote I recall at this moment, where we have often shared this anecdote, where mother goes to see room of a sadhak, yeah, Pondicherry, and he has arranged it very neatly and everything is neat and clean. And mother goes and opens that drawer exactly in which all the stuff is, kind of piled up together. It's not neat and clean. And mother says that this is what you have to show me. This is what you have to consciously show it to me so that I can put my light on it. Otherwise, I know, but you don't know what all you are hiding. So it's for us to become conscious of all that we hide, and all that would be hidden will remain uh, away from that divine light and force. Again, the other example which comes to me is this: when Duryodhan, when Duryodhan goes to, before the war, Mahabharat, so Gandhari has called Duryodhan. I'm sure all of us have heard that story. And she says that, okay, you come to me the night before the war, and you come to me and you come absolutely naked. Don't wear anything on your body, because I will open my blindfold and I look at you, and with this power of tap that she has generated in her, she would give him like a invincible kind of strength. So Krishna is Krishna, and he's passing through when Duryodhan is, naked, going to Gandhari's tent. And Krishna, out of his, this manipulative trick that he has to do so that the Pandav wins. So he says that, "Oh, how are you going this, like this to your mother? You are such a big fellow, adult fellow. You don't go naked." And he asks him to cover at least the lower part, and then he covers. And when Gandhari sheds light on, that light of tapas, the force, that part was the part that remains without force, not invincible. And that was the weak point which with which Bhim shatters Duryodhan. So again, I think that just came just to show us that whatever we hide from the divine, it's we are just nurturing our own ugliness and not letting it more purification towards more purity and beauty. And if we want to walk the path towards beauty, then we will have to open all the dark corners. It's okay, each one of us has, and show it and offer it continually to the Divine Mother or any form of divine. Yeah. And again, a lot of grounding I feel comes when we look at our own darknesses. So good for us to go through them. So I'm moving forward. Then, if there is no further reflection at this, we have a second prayer today, March 30, 1914. So would anyone do the honor of reading this aloud for us? Yeah, anyone who wants to read? Yeah, Taru?
Yeah. March 30, 1914. In the presence of those who are integrally thy servitors, those who have attained the perfect consciousness of thy presence, I become aware that I am still far, very far from what I yearn to realize, and I know that the highest I can conceive, the noblest and purest, is still dark and ignorant beside what I should conceive. But this perception, far from being depressing, stimulates and strengthens the aspiration, the energy, the will to triumph over all obstacles so as to be at last identified with thy law and thy work. Gradually, the horizon becomes distinct, the path grows clear, and we move towards a greater and greater certitude. It matters little that there are thousands of beings plunged in the densest ignorance. He whom we saw yesterday is on earth. His presence is enough to prove that a day will come when darkness shall be transformed into light, and thy reign shall be indeed established upon earth. O Lord, divine builder of this marvel, my heart overflows with joy and gratitude when I think of it, and my hope has no bounds. My adoration is beyond all words. My reverence is silent. The Mother.
Yeah, would anyone want to share reflections?
Monica ji, Jishnu here.
Yes, please, Jishnu.
Yeah, so first of all, this is that historic prayer, that 30th March 1914, which Mother wrote after she met Sri Aurobindo on 29th of March 1914. And naturally, that para is iconic, as well as we read it very often when Mother said, "It matters little that there are thousands of beings plunged in the densest of ignorance. He whom we saw yesterday on earth, his presence is enough to prove that a day will come when darkness shall be transformed into light, and thy reign shall be indeed established upon earth." This para itself shows how clear was Mother with her goal, and she had realized her goal on this world, on this earth, that she has to transform or bring the divine reign on earth. That exactly she knew. And the moment she met Sri Aurobindo, whom she wrote later in 1920, 21, she said that how she realized her goal. And about that, when she was asked, she said that the moment I met Sri Aurobindo, I understood that he is the divine being whom I had seen in my dreams or in occult plane, whom immediately she identified as Sri Krishna. And this is, by this time, Sri Aurobindo spoke nothing about it. If we notice that by 1914, Sri Aurobindo spoke nothing about his own self, about his own realization, about, of course, he spoke something about his goals, but he never spoke anything about Sri Krishna or other that. He said that after I took that para speech, that he had that Sri Krishna was guiding him. He had that vision of the Vasudeva, that universal vision, but he spoke nothing about himself. Now, coming to the first, which we normally don't read, in the first two paragraphs of the prayer. And here we see that Mother, now that we know that Mother is speaking about Sri Aurobindo, and we see that what humility. When somebody asked later Sri Aurobindo about Mother, this is before ashram was formed, Sri Aurobindo said that I have never seen someone so much surrendered, that each cell of her body or has fully surrendered. That in the presence of those who are integrally thy servitors, those who have attained the perfect consciousness of thy presence, I become aware that I am still far, very far from what I yearn to realize. And I know that the highest I can conceive, the noblest and the purest, is still dark and ignorant beside what I should conceive. So after meeting Sri Aurobindo, typically this is, I would say, this was her feeling, that looking at him, she felt that she still has so much to achieve. It's no wonder that we all know that Mother surrendered herself to Sri Aurobindo, and Sri Aurobindo also did that. But this perception, far from being depressing, and there is this interesting thing, that when we feel something huge, good, nice, far exceeding us, normally the normal human self gets sad, right? Normal human self gets depressed. Oh, this is something I can never achieve. This is something too good for me. This is a standard which I will never be able. But she, on the other hand, she is saying, instead of being depressed, it is stimulating and strengthening the aspiration, the energy, the will to triumph over all obstacles, so as to be at last identified with thy law and thy work. That is, it is a great motivation force at a very small scale. This is naturally with that Mother and Sri Aurobindo at a very small scale. When we are doing satsang, when we meet such people, even not integrally thy servitors, but even when we meet sincere aspirants, we feel that joy. We get touched like magnet and iron. We get touched by that joy. And exactly that Mother is saying, that instead of feeling depressed or sad, I feel energized that there is so much to do. I can do, and I want to be identified with thy law and thy work. Gradually, the horizon becomes distinct, the path grows clear, and we move towards a greater and greater certitude. And this is something about Mother's, her own questions, 100%. because she always, as she said, that she was aware of our mission and goal. But the thing is, she had this question that how it will be materialized, how that work will be done. In fact, yeah, I forgot, when she met Sri Aurobindo, she had two questions. And one of the questions were that whether they will, or Sri Aurobindo will achieve Siddhi himself, or he will wait for others to gather around him and they will move together. That was one of the questions. And so she says, gradually the horizon becomes distinct, the path grows clear, and we move towards a greater and greater certitude. That is, the moment she saw him, she understood that what work to be done. She got a very clear indication. Even some letter, which I was reading very recently, 1915, one of the letters where Sri Aurobindo is writing to mother. And he said that, of course, they were speaking, Sri Aurobindo was speaking about the difficulties of the yoga. And he is saying that there has been no progress. He's saying it's like, naturally, that time that First World War was going on. And he said it's like the trench war, where nobody is leaving any ground and both the parties are interlocked. He is speaking about himself. And he said, 1915, he is saying, though I have my path of progress mapped, but the level of success achieved is very little. That one. If I find that letter, I will of course read up at the end. But it was a very beautiful letter. And when we see this prayer is of course, it's a historic, as I said, it's a historic because mother wrote after meeting Sri Aurobindo. It is also a great promise that mother, when she met Sri Aurobindo, she felt that, okay, that the task which she had in her mind will be actually possible on this earth. So it's a great promise also that she felt. And also, of course, the humility that when she saw Sri Aurobindo, she felt that that somebody in front of someone so majestic, I would say, in terms of divine, she felt that there is so much to achieve. If I can just take 2 minutes, I will just read that letter which Sri Aurobindo wrote to mother. It was on 6th May 1915. Let's say this July 1915. I should remember right. Everything internal is ripe or ripening, but there is a sort of locked struggle in which neither side can make a very appreciable advance. Someone like the trench war in Europe, the spiritual force insisting against the resistance of the physical world, the resistance disputing every inch and making more or less effective counterattacks. And if there were not the strength and ananda within, it would be harassing and disgusting work. But the eye of knowledge looks beyond and sees that it is only a protracted episode. And another letter, 16th September 1915. Nothing seems able to disturb the immobility of things, and all that is active outside our own selves is a sort of welter of dark and somber confusion from which nothing formed or luminous can emerge. It is a singular condition of the world, the very definition of chaos and the superficial form of the old world resisting, apparently intact on the surface, but a chaos of long disintegration or of some early new birth. It is the thing that is being fought out from day to day, but as yet without any approach to a decision. Something like what's happening right now.
Thank you so much, Jishnuji. Thank you for bringing these letters out. Yeah, any further reflections from anyone? Anything that resonated? Yes.
Yeah, I just have a question. Vishnuji, the first thing that you read, what was the last word? What episode? Protected? I didn't
Protected.
understand.
Protected. It's just a
Protected.
long, no, protected, long, basically long,
Long. Okay,
a long
okay,
episode.
okay. Protected. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Frustrating, actually, long and frustrating. That would
Frustrated.
be other. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting that, how it says, like what you also very beautifully spoke about, that how when one realizes how far one is, or how, maybe petty or small or weak, how one, when one is allowing oneself to even feel that or acknowledge that, how one is pulling oneself down further, right? And then mother says that if you can just do one thing for the divine, be happy, right? Have that shows you are sincere. So whenever I say that, okay, I'm the fallen one. I mean, although to see that also is great, but how it has the tendency to pull you down further and further. Or I can just say that, oh, I realize I'm fallen right now, but my destination is the skies. Like how just that approach changes the whole dynamics of each and every challenge and situation. It's very humbling and I don't know, not very easily learned. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, actually, this life divine, there is a chapter that on, I think, death and rebirth. It's a very, very beautiful chapter. Someday we can, on some other occasion, we may read. But there, Sri Aurobindo explained, like we say, like karma, that whatever is happening in our current birth is karma. And Sri Aurobindo said it is, of course, there is some bit of karma, but the other bit he is saying is that psychic being chooses the difficulties which is right for them. And he said that at times the soul chooses poverty and failure over over wealth and success, because that makes people lazy. That's the soul feeling. He said that at times we feel, right? I mean, I'm sure we have seen in our lives, we have friends, people, or ourselves where we have persistently failed in spite of being good effort, or I mean making every effort. And Sri Aurobindo is saying that the soul has chosen this. It's because they feel that in this birth they will do this to be active, to do, and not be lazy, or not be, there's another term he used, lazy is to commonplace. What I mean to say is, basically he said that to be more sharper. And but that's this, the second thing is, I mean, mother said somewhere that to each one of us, like that there are endless difficulties on this world, and each one of us, I'm sure that we all have, all the 5-6 people here, we all have difficulties, and our difficulties to some extent are common, but mostly individual. Like somebody has some jealousy, somebody has, let's say, fear, other. And mother said that to each one of us, this difficulty is your own program of progress. Like just like somebody is, Tanuji said that we have, let's say, we feel jealous. The mother is saying, in this birth, this jealousy is your path to progress. That is, your path is to overcome jealousy in this life. Same for diseases, same for psychological difficulties, each one. And she said, because you cannot solve all the problems in this world. You can solve only the set of problems given to you. And if you carefully notice yourself, what is your persistent problem? Like there are some problems which are minor and some are persistent. If there is a persistent problem, this is what you have come in this birth to solve. Which Jung speaks about, like in shadow.
Yes. I think as mother says that every moment there is a choice to be made. So what earlier Taru was sharing, this either I'm identifying with the suffocating, limiting, this constricted sense of self, or I have the choice to identify with the expansion, with the highest. And as you were sharing that, using all the raw material on the path uh, towards progress, everything becomes an ahuti towards greater and greater progress. So I think this again, as Mother talks about vigilance, that each moment this is requiring effort. And today I was reading something by Sri Aurobindo where he was sharing that this, I'll just read it out. I think it was very nice. Just a second. Mm. Yeah, he says that it is not advisable in the early stages of sadhana, which for us would go for many lifetimes. It is not advisable in the early stages of the sadhana to leave everything to the divine or expect everything from it without the need of one's own endeavor. So, this aspect of personal effort, I think, which is very, very important, because whenever we talk of surrender or, giving everything to the divine inwardly, we take this very passive attitude. We have the tendency of taking a very passive attitude. And while Mother talks about it, that each moment this choice has to be made. Either we are surrendering to the ego consciousness or we are surrendering to the divine. What am I surrendering to? So, yeah, lots of effort and lots of choice also. I think when we reclaim this power, that wow, okay, so far I have been identifying with this limited and constricted and sad part in myself, but oh, I am free, and I can also associate and identify with the highest in me. I think that really what the inspiration that Mother talks about, but this perception, far from being depressing, stimulates and strengthens the aspiration. So lot of possibilities, infinite possibilities, because of this choice at each moment. Yeah. And we feel this joy and gratitude, many a times. I'm sure we all of us have these glimpses off and on, when in that moment, one moment, we are not under the burden of ego consciousness, very simple, mind is light, clear, and we are full of this gratitude welling from within. And my hope has no bounds. Yeah. So I think Jishnuji already elaborated on this prayer, so I would not go over the prayer again, but there was something which I read from the commentary of Sri Aurobindo on Isha Upanishad, which for me was very inspiring. Again, regarding this, what do I identify with? So let me just read it out for all of us, and then we can take reflections and end. So this is a page for those of us who have the book. This is page 119, and he was talking about Jivan Mukta. So the student is asking a question that uh, would Jivan Mukta actually wish to live 100 years? Can one who is mukt also have a desire? Like, this is a desire that I would want to live for 100 years for serving the divine. So then Sri Aurobindo is answering as the Guru, and he says that I'm not talking, I'm not taking it all, I'm just sharing a bit of it. Yeah. He says, you should desire to live your allotted term of life, because you in the body are the Brahman, who by the force of his own Shakti is playing for himself, by himself, this Leela of creation. So this was very empowering when he says that because you in this body are the Brahman, so again, very empowering, who by the force of his own Shakti is playing for himself, by himself, this Leela of creation, preservation and destruction. In this view, Brahman is Isha, the Lord, creator and destroyer, and you also are Isha, creator and destroyer. Only for your own amusement, to use a violent metaphor, you have imagined yourself limited by a particular body. for the purposes of the play, just as an actor imagines himself to be Dushyant or Ram or Ravan, and often the actor loses himself in the part and really feels himself to be what role he is playing, forgetting that he is really not Dushyant or Ram, but that Devdatta, so the original actor, who plays 100 parts besides. And then he's saying that once I realize that, oh, I am the actor, I'm not this role, then it's not that you leave the play. So that's also very important. No, still, when he shakes off this illusion and remembers that he is Devdatta, the original actor who is playing the role of whether Dushyant or Ram, he does not therefore walk off from the stage and refusing to act, break up the play, but goes on playing till his best, till the proper time for the curtain to fall. So we may realize on the way that, oh, I was living in this ignorance, that I am this role that I am playing, feeling so constricted, limited. But suddenly there is an awakening and realize, wow, I am not that role that I play. I am the actor behind the role, who is playing so many varied roles. But that doesn't mean that I would leave the play and go away. And then he suggests, he has an advice. So we should all do, whether as householder or sannyasi, as jivan mukta or mumukshu, remembering always that the object of this sansara is creation, and that it is our business, so long as we are in this body, to create. The only difference is that so long as we forget our true self, we create like servants under the compulsion of our prakriti or nature, and are, as it were, slaves and bound by her actions, the actions of prakriti, which we imagine to be ours. But when we know our true self and experience our true self, then we are the masters of our prakriti and not bound by her creations. Our soul becomes the sakshi, the silent spectator of the actions of our nature. And then he again goes on and on and on. So when I was reading this thing, it was very, very empowering, because most of the times, as Jishnuji and Taru were sharing, we are identified with the constricted, the limited, the jealous one in me. And as Jishnuji was sharing, that whatever is the set of obstacles for me, that is the stepping stone towards greater transcendence. That's what we have to travel. So very empowering when we disengage from the surface movement and we identify with the highest possible in us. And then Alokda was also sharing that once he met a patient, somebody, not a patient actually, somebody brought him to Alokda, and he was sharing that I am Brahman, something like that. We can use it in any distorted form. And then Alokda was saying that, okay, that if you are Brahman, who are you? Who am I? And he said that, oh, you are a doctor. So I think he was just sharing that how to test whether it's a true realization or not. Because when you see the divine in you, when you identify with the divine in you, you also see the divine essence in others. Although you see all the weaknesses in others also, it's not that you are blind to the darknesses, but you also see the divine aspect in others. It's not that I am Brahman and the others are not. So yeah, that was a bit funny. Yeah, any last reflections before we end? Anything from you, Abhishek? Yeah.
Yes, Monica, I was just listening very carefully, Jesu and Taru also, and you also. The thing is this, the second chapter or the prayers of the session was very strong. Means it's really given impression if you are doing a certain kind of, if you say, okay, I'm successful, it's nothing like this. Even after successful, there's emptiness, there's something. So I mean, this world or universe need to give you the again one obstacle, then you have to close the obstacle, then you have to go and move on. So it clarifies that there is no definition of success. It's just a move on the life. First thing is this. And second thing is this, for example, if we are going for attaining a knowledge at a perfect consciousness, because the two consciousness used in the prayer. In the first para, there's absolute consciousness, and the second para is a perfect consciousness. So if we are learning all the things to absolutely or going to the absolute consciousness to attain that stage, we have to go through different stage of consciousness, because we cannot only use the consciousness. You also said this. So either absolute consciousness, when it comes, even if we far from the absolute consciousness, still we are learning. We are phasing one close to another, another close to another, because we are going to discover this planet. For example, if that Karu also said this, if we are going to sky, for example, to rocket or something, again the darkness comes and you are going to explore. If we are going to dive into the sea and ocean, you will see again the darkness, but there you will see the beauty of the creatures over there. So that's why it's the para, it's also mentioned the darkness transformed into the light. It mentioned the transformation. Even the darkness also transform. It's not only convert, it transformed to the light. So the theme is this: we are having a two kind of the one, we go to the society, go for a job. Second one is this, the spirituality. So if we go in a real picture, that where we are going for job, we are going for doing our things, where we are going to paying our responsibility. And second thing, we are thinking about divine, everything. Both concepts are very, very different. Very, very different. So somewhere we need to balance those two things, really balance it. If we go for the perfect consciousness, then these things will work or not work, I don't know. The society thinks, job things, responsibility things are all. So if we balance both of the things together at the early stage of sannyas, or early stage as you talk about, then to come to attain the perfect stage, maybe we can leave the social society and all, we can come to this the perfect consciousness stage. That time is better. But we all are bounding with certain boundaries, bounding with some certain things actually. That's why we are discussing a lot about this. We are talking about, Monica, divinity, that we have to find divinity. But you are also saying, and scripture also saying, that the divinity is within itself. We are divine, for example. Other is also a divinity, or the divine person. So then why we are looking for divinity, a specific God, a specific, creation, whole world is, if we are divine, and absolutely we are divine, because we are part of God. So sometimes I'm confused that what is divinity, whether a specific God, or with all due respect, any specific, Upanishad, Granth, Mother, or any specific Lord, Shiva, Ganesha, or we are also a divinity, the part. So these things are a little confused to me at this lecture. So these are my reflections for the day.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think very relevant and pertinent. Good that you raised it. One thing which is coming to me is that yes, we are all Buddha natured. Yes, we are all divine. But right now, the way we are, if we look at our thoughts, if we look at our feelings, so much of ill will, hatred, envy, all that, if we look at the way we live, our actions, we will clearly know, something in us will clearly know, no, this can't be divine. And that knowing within that we have, which is able to discern the right from the wrong, that knowing is that torch or the light of consciousness with which we have to transform everything into its perfect purity, beauty, harmony. Yes, we are a long way away from that pure divinity, as you said, and it's frustrating, also totally resonate with you. But, why it ceases to be frustrating? Because when Mother shares the story of creation with us, that when the Supreme Purusha asked the Divine Mother Aditi to create the creation, and then she manifested these four powers out of her. So these four powers, they turn their opposite. Like, you imagine you give money to your child, okay, to take 10 rupees and buy bread. Then that child goes a bit far and he realizes, wow, there is no supervisor, and now this 10 rupees belongs to me. I can do anything with this 10 rupees. So something like that mother talks about that happened, that these powers, the powers like bliss, sat chit ananda, so ananda became suffering. Sat, which is immortality, became mortality, that we have death, right now. And then consciousness became unconsciousness, force became weakness. So all these powers, they upturned into their opposites. And with mother's story of creation, when she shares, then it becomes very easily understandable that, oh, that's why I have so much imperfection and darkness. Because the journey is, as mother says, that seeing that this inversion has happened, the souls said that, okay, we are going to plunge into this creation of darkness so that we can take it towards light. So what Jishnuji was sharing, that for example, I have jealousy. There is something in me which can look at jealousy and which sees that it is ugly in nature. It does not expand me, it limits me. With that light of consciousness, I have to, transform into something beautiful. So then it ceases to be frustrating, at least a bit. Still, it can get frustrating at times. I'm totally with you. But then we know that, oh, my purpose is to use all this as a raw material and to turn it towards, as as peels of bananas and all that is turned into compost, which is nurturing for the plants. So all these raw material of jealousy, victim, blame, ego, arrogance, ambition, pride, desires, this all has to be put like a, you put ahutis in the fire of aspiration, so that all this turns towards more and more purity. Otherwise, what's the fun, being born as human beings, if everything is perfect? And mother says that even gods, they want to undergo some progress, they have to take birth as human beings, because progress is only possible in the earthly terrestrial realm. And Sri Aurobindo, as Shishnu was sharing, about life divine, the whole plan, as if it lies so vast plan in front of us, that wow, this is what we are supposed to do. Recognize our animalist instincts and to drop them, to let them go, and now move towards being a man with more purity, and then towards a divine man. That's our task. Because if the animal is not there, the rubbishness is not there, what are we here to do? The magic cannot happen. The magic can happen because there is imperfection. So with mother and Sri Aurobindo's words, I think we can, somehow it's very comforting that, okay, this is the task. This is what we have to do. And then we also become very grounded, looking at our own ugliness, weaknesses, because when I see it in others, it doesn't shock me. Because for others also, this is the same game. They also have to transform. So I think it's comforting to read their words. Yeah, that this is the journey that we have to make. Yeah, anything else?
Yeah, very small note on failure. You know how we were discussing about frustration and we see the darkness, or just, how, I mean, it's so easy to be happy and grateful and have faith when everything is going your way, right? But if persistently, if you feel in your own definitions, because I don't know whether that can be even called a failure, what we accept as failures or acknowledge as failures, I think that's a very beautiful, I don't know, ground to, I don't know, see, I develop more faith, like in yourself, right? Like in the divine, that yes, nothing is going as I thought it would. And yet I have faith that things are okay. I mean, it's like an up and down movement, but just that the failures really help me in solidifying my stand on the ground. Just, yeah, wanted to share.
And also, this thing on failure and success, again, with Mother and Sri Aurobindo's words, the inner compass is set right again and again. Now, why we worry so much about success and failure? Because all that is success to us is what society thinks as success. All that is failures to us is what society takes as failure. So why am I a failure? Because I did not get 90% in my 12th. That's why I'm a failure, for example. But when we see Mother and Sri Aurobindo, they very, in the beginning itself, in Mother's commentaries on Life Divine, she clarifies that the purpose of human terrestrial existence is unification with the divine consciousness, is growth of consciousness. So I can check, okay, is this so-called failure giving me, more and more expansion in my being, ripening in my being? And we would see that it's only our challenges, and failures that they have ripened us. They have grounded us, they have ripened us. And if that is happening, then it's actually a success in the terms of, spiritual manner, because that's what it's supposed to happen. We have to ripen, we have to grow in consciousness. And even when the society calls it a failure or a success, all that matters is growth of consciousness. And then we are also easy on our children. Because if I have this attitude that all that matters is growth of consciousness, then when my kid is failing, now the best part is that how to go through this so-called failure, in groundedness, as Taru was sharing, how I take, what is the attitude I take in this so-called failure. So if expansion and growth of consciousness is happening, it's a win-win situation. In any case, with Mother's prayers and meditations, we see that it's a win-win. Even Ravana is winning. So all the stumblings are taken care of. The divine uses it all towards a mean for perfection, whether in ignorance or in knowledge, in consciousness. So we are in safe hands. Okay, so I think we can end here, and maybe with a short prayer and aspiration for everyone, if we can just take a moment and relax and just wish for our own self and all the beings around us. May we all move towards our highest and deepest possibilities. And as was discussed, using all the happenings as a raw material on the path, may we move towards our highest and greatest possibilities. Each one of us. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for sharing, reflecting, listening, and joining. Thank you.